At Highland Hill Farm, I believe that most trees should be trimmed maybe at least once a year, or every tree should be at least looked at over the winter time. One of the things we're doing right here is we're looking at our green giant arborvitaes, and we're trimming them back. I believe that trimming back green giant arborvitaes is a very good thing that makes them healthier and makes sure that they have 1 liter to it. This is a tree I just trimmed, and this is a tree that I haven't trimmed yet. First thing you can notice for sure is that there's a huge difference in size. I don't mind knocking a foot off the top of the tree to make the center of the tree a little bit denser and thicker. You can see this guy here is real thin. I'm not really keen on real thin ones. I wouldn't mind taking off 1.5 feet on that one just to make sure it thickens and pulls. And you can see this guy here, this has been trimmed. You can see I trim it here, and I also trim it on the other side to try to encourage a more denser look to the plant. If you scan across, they all get trimmed about the same way. I try to trim them so that each width of each tree is just about the same. So if you get trees from us, they're uniform in their shape. I also try to trim the block all at the same time, so when they grow out, they all flush at the same time, and they all are all on the same step when it comes from on a pruning program basis. So we have a whole bunch more. I would imagine we probably have another 2,000 more to go do, but it's one of those things like I believe we really should trim them, and that's what I gotta do. So when I first start my trimming, I usually go in on the sides first and knock the sides a little bit back. And the reason I like to hit the sides back on it is that it forces the interior growth here to grow out, and that's where you get that real thick look to it. Most arborvitaes do not want to have that look, but if you go through and you trim the sides a little bit, it'll make them go out through. So just continue this idea of trying to get it a little bit thicker on the sides, upwards, and you trim it so that there's about 1 little liter. Sometimes there's 2 or 3, depending on what you're thinking that the tree should look like, but I try to keep 1. My brother likes to have 2, and I know some people that like to have 3 to it. I don't think it really matters that much, but it is something that we do for it. And then we complete the trimming by trimming all the way around, making sure that there's no second leaders growing up on it, and if there's any marks like on it, you can take those little marks off as well. Nothing major. Make sure you do hit the bottoms to it. It makes it a more complete tree if you trim the bottoms as well as the top. Now we're going to skip this guy because this is pretty easy, but this guy here is a real good example of what multiple leaders on an arborvitae look like. To be honest, this is the first time we're trimming these trees. We planted them 2 years ago, and we were debating whether to trim them last year or not, and we just didn't have the time, so that kind of dissolved our debate for us. But since they had the 2 leaders on it, this is an unsaleable tree at this particular point in time, and if you do get a tree that has multiple leaders to it, you do want to do trimming onto it. So what we'll do is, I'm actually going to pick this one to be the main leader, so the other 2 are going to get knocked real hard. But when I knock them, I always try to make it so that there's another leader coming up onto it. I don't want to like flat top it and then make it like a stub there. I want to cut it so that there's more growth coming to it and it's not going to permanently scar the tree. So that's what we do. And my dad takes this and makes cuttings out of it. So Dad likes doing that. So then we just go around with our pruners. We prune around the sides a little bit. Now we're doing this to make sure that they're uniform too. Some of them get real fat if you don't trim the sides to it, and if they're real fat and some are real thin, you're going to have an ununiform product, and that's never really a good thing to it. So just go around and you just trim it so that it gets a little bit more uniform, gets a little bit more like a set to everything else. And the most important part is always the top, and we just trim the top a little bit, and we're good to go for it. That's how I like the trees to look. And
when you're really into the gear of trimming the trees like these we have here, how long does it take you to do a tree?
It depends on the size. This size here, since they're a little bit bigger, I would say maybe like a minute to do each tree. That's also doing with these. I like this most. There's a lot of other types of instruments or tools to use, but I think this is the safest. And with this, there's no OSHA requirements, so you don't have to worry about chaps or making it a safe workplace for your employees.
Thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome.
And if they want to ask you a question, what telephone number can they reach you at?
My cell phone number is 267-446-2622. 2376.
If you have questions about arborvitae, give us a call at Highland Hill Farm.